It's my baby. We call that kitty talk. Ooh, that bright light. um, so I realize that I haven't. Again, I apologize for that sunlight. I realize that I haven't made my streams public for a bit. That's going to change today. One will be made public as of 5 o'clock, and the same will be true for, and that will be the case for the others as well, which will have titles and tags. And then this one will be uploaded, as it will be made available as a public video after those have been um, completed. So, yeah. Okay. I'm going to turn this off because that sun's going to get really annoying. Okay. So, briefly talked about the Society of Light. That's what I'm calling it for now. Probably going to change that name, which is more or less the Hydra for Iron Man, but not literally. No, I know there's AIM and, other organizations, but they're a bit different. As I said, they're kind of like his umbrella equivalent, if you will. And in time, we'll iron out the kinks. We'll figure out what their deal is. We'll fill in the blanks. That's what I would say. Fill in the blanks. Um. Also, I think 9ish should be the time that I stream from now on. I just need to set myself a reminder. Thank you so much for the like. Hello there, Blake. How's it going? That's awesome because that's all that this stream is going to be about. It's a series of streams talking about. Well, you might have actually been here for one of them, for all I know. But yeah, making my own Iron Man comic slash spinoff. I can't actually do it, to like officially, but it's like a fan fiction thing. Um, so the hero's name is Munition. His real name is Colin Tanner. He is a futurist like Tony Stark. He went to school, took up science because he wanted to make the world a better place. And I know that's simplistic, but there's more to it than that. His mother was well, when I say was, I don't mean that she's gone, but let's say was and is a chemistry teacher. His father is a doctor, a medical doctor. I don't think it matters what kind of doctor he is. I'm sure I'll figure that out at some point. Um, and Colin, after he goes through school, um, graduates, he strives to work for Stark Industries. But yeah, apologies for that Freudian slip. Tony turns him down. But Colin isn't one to give up. See, he's gonna keep going for that job no matter what. And eventually, Tony starts to admire this, admire and respect it. It makes him start to take a liking to him. So he decides, okay, let me see what this kid's all about. He makes it clear that he's very selective about who he employs. Makes sense given all that he's gone through. He doesn't want to have the wrong people under him or even by his side. Um, I feel like he's similar to Bruce Wayne in that regard, although maybe not as paranoid. Um, Not to say that Tony can't be paranoid, but I feel like Bruce is a little bit more. And so he slowly brings him into the fold. You know, does what he can to get to know him. Let me speak with him long enough, and do some digging, and if I feel like I can trust him, then I'll bring him more into the fold. 3 likes, thank you so much. Hello, silly bean, silly more. And so, in time, Tony reveals, look, I've been working on a brand new Iron Man armor. What's different about this one is that its weaponry is it's Iron Man. I do streams all about Iron Man and a more specifically an original concept, so to speak. It's kind of like a fan comic idea. The channel will most likely expand beyond that, but that's just what I've decided to start with. Um, Basically, Colin is kind of like his Terry McGinnis. Not literally, but there will be some slight similarities. When he employs him, he more or less has him do, menial tasks. Because again, he doesn't really know him. Just like how Terry, while he's obviously Batman at night, um, he serves as Bruce's driver mostly. He accompanies him. I forget. He probably does other things, but I can't think of what else. And Colin's basically like, okay, get me a cup of coffee, kid. Um, bring me a sandwich, that sort of thing. in the very early stages of their relationship. And then in time, um, hello first 2000, I'm gonna try to commit to doing streams around 9 from now on. And I'm gonna set my reminder for that. Yes, I'm definitely gonna do that. I'm gonna make one public today at 5 p.m. and then I'm gonna do that with the rest of them. And I'm literally gonna schedule them all for that until there's no more streams to be made public. Um, please do. And then I'll even set another reminder for myself. Um, so I lost my train of thought there. Apologies. Right. He slowly brings him into the fold and reveals to him that he's been working on a new Ironman armor, which, he's always building something new. But this armor is a little bit different. Now I want to make it perfectly clear that I don't read the comics, so this suit could already exist. And if it does, then I'll just have to, you know, change the concept up to make it more unique. The basic premise is that it's an Iron Man armor that's um I hesitate to say more form fitting. Uh but as is the case with newer technologies, the newer versions of that tech tends to, well, not newer, but technology to some extent becomes smaller, right? And so he figures, okay, the weapons on this are not going to be like missiles and stuff like that, so it's going to be a lot lighter. All of the weaponry is going to basically be generated. I don't know where the weaponry is going to where it's going to come from, if that makes any sense, but it's going to follow a very slight similar concept to Green Lantern rings, where the repulsors on the suit will actually produce. Um, I'm thinking they'll have like different energy settings that he can like cycle through. Um, and Munition. Um, and so the repulsor will like change color depending on what he's using. Um, the energy will, as I pretty already made clear, will be channeled through the repulsors, and um, he'll even be able to like generate an energy shield, which I think he's already been able to do. But um, basically, the only weapons this armor will have are the repulsors. He may have some projector weapon in the gauntlets, but that's about it. Um, Thank you. Appreciate that. And yeah, I know it's overdone, but because it is the future, the suit will be stored as in the form of nanotech. It only makes sense for a hero whose most advanced suits have more or less been that way to keep going with that. Um, for storage purposes, so that the suit can self-repair. Those are the main benefits of nanotechnology, is that nanotechnology can basically repair itself, right? And the other big thing is that this suit can absorb solar energy to refuel itself if needed, to recharge its arc reactor if needed, or to even bolster its power for more intense. If it needs more energy to increase the power of its weapons, it can do it for that too. Um, it's being called the Helios armor for right now, but I may come up with something quote unquote better in the future. Um, and as Fresh 2000 had pointed out, um, this girl named Clarissa, who turns out to be a spy, um, cozies up to him and eventually tries to use him to gain information on what Tony is up to, what his company's up to as a whole, because her father's company is kind of like an anti-Stark Industries. They have a vision for the future too, and they have a warped idea for how to improve humanity. They want to do so through genetics, biology, as well as technology. They basically want to give people superpowers, every single human, not, a variety of them, but they basically want to make them all better versions of Captain America. And the purpose of that is to make it so that humanity will humankind will basically have bodies that never fail, like they'll remain at peak strength for basically forever. Um, they'll not be immortal, but they'll age at a much slower rate, because they believe this is better for humanity. A population that can live a lot longer and work a lot longer and be happier for a lot longer. Um, that's their whole deal. Um, and it'll bring up the question of, okay, should science be limited? I'm not trying to act as though this hasn't been a theme in an Iron Man comic before. I'm sure it has, but it definitely is for this one. Should there be a limit to what science is used for? How much it improves the human race? I think a lot of people would argue that when it comes to curing illnesses, that there should basically be no limit. Um, that's a question left to people who um, are deeper thinkers than I am. Um, like if you were to ask me, I think if it was possible to cure every single illness, that it should be done. But we also know that it's not literally it's impossible to cure every illness. The best that you could hope for would be you develop cures for illnesses, but people still get them. They're just able to live a lot longer. And, like, for example, I don't think cancer will ever truly be a thing of the past. Well, thank you so much, Blake. Was happy to see you here. I hope to see you again, possibly Monday. I don't know if I'll stream tomorrow. So do take care of yourself, and if you celebrate the Easter holiday, happy Easter. That goes for everyone else who may celebrate Easter. If you don't, then you know, I hope you have a great Sunday. In case I don't see you in the stream anymore. Um, so yeah, that's my idea for this villainous group, shall we say? Now, I like at times I like a group that aren't really villains. They're antagonists, but they're not really evil. Their heads in the right, their hearts in the right spot, in the right place. But they're not considering the consequences of their actions. And that's what this organization is all about. Now, you might be wondering, okay, why would a science, organization that's all about, genetically enhancing and biologically enhancing. Oh, hold on 1 second. Apologies for that. My mom was talking, and I didn't want that to distract anyone. Anyway, so yeah, they're not thinking about the consequences of their actions. And again, you might be you as I had said, you might be wondering, okay, why would a company, why would a group, why would an organization who's mainly been focusing on genetics and biology. I know the two are basically the same thing, but I'm sure there's differences in those two studies, right? When it comes to like treating diseases and trying to make the human body more resistant or even immune to certain ailments. Um, you know, they're basically trying to turn people, as I said, into like a combination of Captain America and Wolverine in terms of like the ability to heal, um, you know, the strength that each human possesses. Like they'll basically all have the same potential. Um, and they believe this is best for humanity because it means that the old will still be incredibly strong. They won't really lose much in the way of that. Their bones will be able to things like you won't ever have to see an old man walking around with a walker ever again because his joints will be just as strong as they were when he was in his 20s because of all these processes and all these things they're looking into. It's like they're trying to scientifically evolve the human race through, you know, the force evolution, basically. And they want Iron Man's tech for militaristic purposes to outfit um, their military. Like they plan to be the governing body of this new world they're envisioning. Um, and they want the Iron Man suits for their army, for their military. Now, there is a main inspiration for this group that I hadn't actually thought about until yesterday, but there's a villainous group in the Horizon series, Zero Dawn Forbidden West. I'm not gonna go further than that, but in case enough of you haven't played Forbidden West, but if you have, you'll know what I'm talking about. Um, and I'm thinking the arc for this story will lead into um, we won't worry about the people of the entire world. We'll just say that they only go so far as because even with all their expertise and their advancements, it would still take like I don't know, let's say decades or maybe at least 10 years. I know it's comics, so we can speed it up a bit. At least 10 years for them to make their vision truly become reality. So, um, that's why Clarissa is trying to use Colin to find out you know what Tony and him are cooking. What I think would be interesting about this storyline is that it could challenge both Tony and Colin's points. Um, maybe to some, maybe even for like a brief period of time, Colin could feel initially swayed. Maybe even Tony could, because Tony's done some pretty crazy things for the right reasons, right? Like look at Civil War. Um, when he basically became the main proponent of the superhuman or the superhero registration act, which is basically the Accords, but the difference here is that um, you not only work for the government, you also have your identity revealed to the public. That's not the way the Accords, from what I can remember, worked in the MCU. The Accords were just, oh no, you're a government employee, and we tell you when you can and can't do things. But government training was also going to be part of it in the comics, and I do believe you would also be like a paid employee. Um, and you know, I'll be honest, I realize that many people prefer the movie version of Civil War to the comics, but I am the opposite. I think the story overall is actually much stronger in the comics. Changes, definitely needed to be made, but the idea was that Tony ultimately was right, but he didn't want to be right. And it ended up leading to Cap losing his passing. Um, and there's a scene where Tony is quite literally like in the same room with Cap after it happens, and he's crying, and he's like, I wish I hadn't been right. It's that moment, which is one of the reasons why I don't like the movie. I wanted to see the two of them really butt heads over their ideals and not throw in that Bucky's, subplot and what happened to Tony's parents. I also didn't like Zeno being in there. I think you could have easily just done Tony and Cap butt heads, and Iron Man essentially functions as the antagonist for that movie. It didn't need a villain. Anyway, I digress. Um, so Tony might might mull it over and think, okay, like, yeah, it makes sense. Make everybody into Captain America, essentially. Not as fighters, but like physically speaking, make them all into Captain America, and physically speaking, and work to push the human race into having um, you know healing abilities on the level of Wolverine. But then here's one of the major problems with that: overpopulation. If people were, let's say, pretty much all guaranteed to live to like their 90s and up, overpopulation would become a thing. We all know what could result from that. Um, Also, how do you make sure that the people are going to be taken care of financially? Like, okay, yeah, they'll have this superior physiology, but they still need to work. Like, they still need to eat. You know. Um, what about the impacts on culture? Right? Like, there's going to be people that are against this because it's like you're trying to play God, and there's already problems with that. That would be Tony's whole argument. He suggests, okay, use your resources to look for and develop cures for illnesses. Like like that's something that I'm completely on board with, and I'm thinking that Colin would as well. But literally trying to change the genetics of the human race so that they're far more resilient and even outright immune to illnesses, that just goes far beyond what feels right. Like, because it's like giving humanity a taste of power that they really shouldn't have. And at that point, what's the next step? Would humanity then progress to being on the same level as the Asgardians? Right? Um, like there needs to be limits. Um, and Tony obviously, like, he does whatever he wants. He's a bit of a hypocrite here. And I'm thinking Colin would more or less point that out and say, look, you make a lot of great points, but let's not forget you're constantly upgrading and making stronger Iron Man armors. Some people could view you as like a sort of god. Hold on, I gotta mute. Okay, so yeah, that's the gist of it. Going forward, I think we'll discuss um, the major beats. How do we get from point A to point B? Every stream may be titled as if it were like the first part in a series of comics, like Munition Part One, Part Two, yada 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 yada, or Munition issue number one, issues two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, so on and so forth. To start, however, I think it should spin off from an Iron Man story. I don't know what it would be called. Maybe let me think. Um, how about Iron Man? And this subtitle, if you will, or the title of this specific comic would reference Icarus and flying too close to the sun. And we'll come up with a title that's fitting. Now, cast of characters. Obviously, Tony. Um, Pepper. Assuming they're still a thing in the comics, which again I don't know. But again, this is also a fan fiction basically, so I'm not going to worry too much about what's happened in the comics and what hasn't. And comics, change all the time, right? New continuities, characters come back, characters leave. War Machine, is going to be in this. So James Rhodes. Um, Colin's parents. So Richard and Amy, I believe. Yeah. Um, Clarissa. Um, and then we'll work out some, minor characters. Um, Maybe there'll even be like a scene or two where Cap shows up, like not to fight, but like Tony wants to, tell Steve like all about what he's found out regarding this organization. Uh, or maybe Cap even finds out about it and he contacts Tony. He's like, this is insane. Like, do you know about this? I think Nick Fury. Like they're gonna be in it, but they're not gonna be in it. If that makes any sense. Like it's still gonna be Tony's mess to clean up, if you will. Not mess, because he didn't cause it, but it's still going to be his problem to deal with mostly. Um, Peter could even show up and maybe even speak with Colin, like maybe they become chummy. Miles, um, this will sound controversial, but Ironheart's not going to be in this. I'm treating this as if Ironheart never existed, or her comic book series has been like canceled, and Colin is her replacement. Now, Colin's ethnicity has not been discussed. I don't think it's important just yet. But if people have ideas for that, uh, you know, speak your mind. Um, I probably will change his name, depending, because like surnames and first names are to some extent connected to, uh, different cultures. Um, so in the next stream, we'll get to it. The next stream will be like we'll call it the writing phase. Not actually gonna be writing it, but you know, discussing what the first uh, what the first issue will be. And hopefully these will become less casual and more focused as we go along. Does anyone have any questions for me? Again, I apologize for that light. Oh, and then there was the whole thing with Iron Man faking his passing. And if you're wondering why I'm not using the D word that rhymes with the condition for people that can't hear, it's because I've been told that saying certain words can cause problems on YouTube, and so I don't want to use that word. So I'm gonna try to find other ways to say it. Yeah, Tony fakes his passing, and more or less has Colin take over as Iron Man. Well, not Iron Man, but using like this new suit. Thank you for saying that, Diane. Peace 420. Very much appreciated. The length of these streams will vary depending on how much activity is going on in the chat, how many viewers are here throughout. Um, if I continue to gain subs, that should hopefully increase in time. And that's why since I'm noticing that I mean, that happens, unfortunately. I'm sorry to hear that. Um, but yeah. So I do believe it's not a bad time to end this stream. Um, and so, with that being said, I want to thank all of you for your support. Um, whether it be leaving likes, whether it be commenting, whether it be subbing, all of it is appreciated. All of it matters. Um, and to those who watch this after the fact, if you like any of this content, please consider commenting, leave a like, and subscribe. And hopefully, I'll see you in one of my live streams. And so, with that being said, it is time for my tradition, which is a little outro that I've made up to really close out the streams. Yeah, that's got to be rough. I'm sorry to hear that. If you can, try to find like music. Music can help people deal with stress. I have horrible anxiety, so like I imagine that your agoraphobia is probably causing a lot of anxiety for you. And it's tough. But I hear you. I'm the same way. Yes, it does. And with that, maybe I'll go for a bit longer. And we'll just call this the portion of the video where we can just chat. in general. People can ask questions. So I know many of you, if not, probably not any of you, know me at all, really. But um, I'm usually pessimistic, and think that everything is hopeless and that nothing good will ever happen. But change is coming, and it's coming no matter what certain people want. Well, that's true. It's a bit um, exaggerated, but I understand the sentiment. I understand the reason why it's said. Um, all this awfulness is not gonna last. You've got people out there that think it's gonna last decades. That think it's the end of this, it's the end of that. No, no, ridiculous. I don't believe for a second that that's the case. Because the truth is, way too many people are not willing to put up with any of that nonsense for that long. So it's gonna have to stop. And the more horrible things happen, the more outraged people become, the more they want to do to right the ship, so to speak. So yeah, it's coming. And it's already starting to fall apart. And it seems to be happening more rapidly as time goes on. Don't make them out to be the big bads that they want you to see them as. If that was the case, they wouldn't be trying so hard to terrify people. They would just be taking action and running over everything. But the reality is they can't. And they know they can't. That's the only thing that's intelligent about them. Outside of that, they're complete morons. These people don't know how to run a kitchen for a elementary school cafeteria, much less a federal government. There's way too many people who are not going to put up with this for our worst fears to be realized. And there's way too many evidence that there's going to be a huge shift to suggest otherwise. It it angers me because there's so much fear mongering going on, even despite how bad things are. But if you think about it logically, it just doesn't make sense to buy into all that. This can't last. It already is failing. And the more people they fire and replace, the weaker they become in turn. It hurts them somewhat more than it hurts anybody else. They are incredibly weak. Well, then definitely do that, yes. Whatever gets you through the day. My prediction is these people are not going to last 2 more years. They're going to be out. One way or another, they're going to be out. And I don't mean that to suggest anything bad will happen to certain individuals. No. I just mean that quite simply, too many people are not going to put up with it. Even in countries like Russia, support is still needed. Polls are still a thing. So keep that in mind. Anyway. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And that's not wishful thinking. That's a fact. There's just way too much evidence of that. And so, with all this being said, uh, I really do want to end this stream. So once again, thank you to everyone uh, for showing up. Thank you to everyone who left a like, everyone who commented, and anyone who may have subscribed. Um, And to anyone who will or may watch this when it is made public, um, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and commenting if you enjoyed this content. And with that being said, to sign myself to sign off, I'm going to leave you with the same outro that I have been ever since I started doing these streams. The truth is, I am Iron.